Cain Dingle's anger has finally exploded, and this time, everything could push him to a far more dangerous edge than ever before. Emmerdale is setting up a special episode focused entirely on Cain and Charity, and after everything that has just unfolded, it promises to be an emotionally charged confrontation where both of them are forced to face feelings they have kept buried for a long time. The March 24th episode showed Cain having a terrible day from the very beginning. He was pressured into attending a prostate support group, but things quickly became too much for him to handle. Just one comment from another member, suggesting that his illness could destroy his marriage and give his wife a reason to leave, was enough to strike directly at Cain's deepest fear. He could not even stay long enough for the session to properly begin and walked out immediately. After that, Cain turned to alcohol at the Woolpack to try to release some of his frustration. But instead of finding peace, more bad news kept coming. Mackenzie told him that their cattle plans had fallen apart. Then Claudette's comments about her brother dying from prostate cancer only made Cain feel even more suffocated. It was the kind of relentless pressure that left a man like Cain, someone who is used to keeping control, unable to hold himself together. Things escalated when Sam turned up and admitted that he had forgotten an important meeting about farm machinery. Cain immediately snapped, lashing out and grabbing Sam in a moment of complete loss of control. Sam did not fight back, probably because he understood just how bad Cain's state of mind really was. That only made the moment feel even heavier, because it became clear that Cain was not truly angry at Sam alone. He was venting all of his fear, helplessness, and the crushing feeling that he was slowly losing his grip on everything. When Cain returned home, he once again reached for alcohol as a way to escape. But Charity refused to let him shut himself away in that chaos. She followed him, sat down in Zach's chair, and bluntly pushed him to say what was really going on in his head. It was no longer just a conversation. It was the moment Charity decided she was not going to let Cain sink any further. The March 25th episode will focus entirely on Cain and Charity in a special two-hander, with the tension between them pushed to its highest point. Cain tries to ignore her and keeps drinking, but when Charity pressures him to take better care of himself, his frustration erupts and he throws the bottle, smashing Zach's tankard in the process. That moment is not just a sudden outburst of temper. It feels like a sign that Cain is falling apart internally, as everything he has tried so hard to hold together begins slipping beyond his control. Even so, Charity refuses to back down. Eventually, Cain finally opens up and admits that he is struggling badly, that he cannot keep carrying everything on his shoulders while Moira is still in prison. This may be the most important part of the story, because Cain has never been the kind of man who admits weakness easily. When someone like him says out loud that he is not coping, it shows just how close to breaking point he really is. In the middle of trying to find an escape from the reality closing in on him, Cain starts reminiscing about the past he shared with Charity and then unexpectedly makes a move on her. But Charity sees through it immediately. She knows Cain too well, and she is clear-headed enough to understand that the moment is not simply about old feelings returning. It is also about confusion, loneliness, and his desperate need to cling to something familiar, while everything else around him feels like it is collapsing. What makes this episode so compelling is that it does not only tell the story of Cain's current breakdown, it also digs deep into the long and complicated history between him and Charity. Because they understand each other so well, they are able to reach emotional wounds that no one else can touch. Charity is not just the person confronting Cain here. She is also the only one strong enough to force him to look directly at the truth. And Cain, despite all his resistance and anger, clearly needs someone to stay beside him at the exact moment he feels weakest. What Jeff Hordley has hinted at also suggests that this episode will deliver plenty of emotional twists, but at its core, it is still about Cain and Charity being there for each other. That does not necessarily mean they are heading back toward a reunion, but it does mean their bond is going to be stirred up in a major way. And once old feelings begin resurfacing while both of them are emotionally vulnerable, the line between support and something deeper becomes very thin. Most likely, This special episode will not create a loud or dramatic shock twist, but it could still reshape Cain and Charity's relationship in a quiet, yet significant way. If Charity continues to be the only person who can force Cain to confront what he is really feeling, she may become the emotional anchor he keeps being drawn back to. But that also makes everything far more complicated, especially with Moira still being such an important part of Cain's life. One moment of weakness could send everything between them in a completely different direction. So this episode feels like more than just Cain's emotional explosion. It is also a test of the deeply tangled bond between him and Charity. And if Emmerdale handles it with the right balance, this could become one of the most powerful and memorable episodes this pair has had in quite some time. If you are also waiting to see where Cain and Charity go after this intense and emotional night, do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more of the latest Emmerdale updates.